looks here. It looks like you're sitting in the. It looks like I'm driving and you're sitting in the back seat.
No, we're
Doesn't
in
it
Europe.
really?
I'm driving.
Okay. Oh my goodness! Just the perspective is
There we
really
go.
funny.
Am I in the
It's
front
like
seat
really
now?
good.
No.
Yeah. No,
Yeah,
that's
I
good.
am.
That's good.
But this is an Uber. I kind of like.
It's great. Oh my god! I'm trying to think of something an Uber driver would say, but do you want some gum or some water?
5-star rating,
It's like,
please.
yeah.
Are you Chad? Is this Chad? Yes, I'm me.
Oh yeah,
I'm
yeah,
me.
yeah. This is Katie. My trusty co-pilot Luke, who is sitting down in the front seat over here. All right,
Luke's really driving the car.
he really is.
Oh.
Yeah, he's the power behind all of this. All right, so okay, so for special guest today for this reading is so I'm very excited to do this, by the way. I think this is going to introduce a whole new way to do these, because I do think that one of the things that has been kind of like just kind of I really keep wanting is like have reactions and conversations about this stuff as it comes up, because right now it's so one-sided. It just sounds like I'm kind of preaching from a pulpit, whereas like something that's really important about Parinama is that it is about an individual experience with the information. So with that being said, like I was thinking that and thank you for being intrepid and brave enough to come along on this experiment, is that I would do what we do and do a tip, like a little bit of reading. First, if you want to say a little bit, like introduce yourself, talk about.
Sure. I am Chad Mermelli, a friend, former employee, and lifelong supporter of Katie, who has been a very interesting presence in my life through several different points. And I am here visiting Boston, back in my old stomping ground, which I haven't been in for a while after I moved out to the West Coast to San Diego.
Yeah.
To begin some new chapters. And I'm kind of excited to be part of this Parinama journey as we're all figuring out how to absorb some of this great, I wouldn't call it advice. I wouldn't call it just content, but information that can really serve myself if I'm excited and open to embrace the different pieces that come with going through this journey. So I'm really thankful to be here today.
I'm so grateful for that. And I think that some of the things just to mention about you and some of your superpowers as I perceive them is your ability to solve pretty much any problem. And when I think about you, I think of a lot of things, but some of them just that are like kind of like things that I admire are just your ability to understand technology and to understand like complicated, like things that are complicated, and figure out how to solve problems very quickly in real time. And just your ability and willingness to just go the extra mile to make things wonderful.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, that's a consistent Chadism. And I think that another thing I think that's really cool is that right now, you being in the process of really exploring, traveling, doing things as you continue to build your career, build your consultancy, and build your life in a way that really is a match for like what works for you personally. And it's really beautiful to watch. I think you've always been like really, like I've always seen you as a person as like existing a high level of integrity in this way of expressing yourself, but it's really amazing to watch this continue to flourish as it like takes on new iterations, like living in California and and being a world traveler. So here's the adventure. So for this installment, which is I'm going to read from page 124, and we're in the third hub. And specifically, we've just switched over from basics into the themes of the first hub. And today we're going to talk about resistance. And what I'd like to do is, instead of me editorializing, is I'm going to read. And if any point when I'm reading, you go, wait, that just made me like something evocative there. That made me
Hmm.
think of something. Either you can like kind of go, hey, and I'll stop, or you can give your thoughts when we're done with the section.
I like that.
So here we go. All
Let's
right.
dive in.
So themes. All right. So confidence, action, individuality, and the pursuit of personal purpose are components of a strong, developed third hub. In an early 1970s interview with Bill Moyers, Maya Angelou said, "You are only free when you realize you belong no place, you belong every place, no place at all. The price is high, the reward is great."
Mm.
I just got goosebumps. The third hub's about taking action that ultimately is in the service of the freedom to be our most authentic self, an ongoing process of revelation experienced through the work of our life.
Interesting quick comment. She actually got goosebumps. I can see them. So those are real. I feel like that's
Receipts.
just a phrase people
Yeah,
say.
no, it's like, woo.
Ugh.
Yeah, it's really true. Yeah, yeah, that one's really,
Mm.
I really feel that. You know, and it's interesting with like in writing the book, that in particular, this vignette, it came through when I was writing this from multiple places. And it's not the most common Maya Angelouism, but it kept coming up in all sorts of like it'd be brought up through like it'd be in like a podcast, someone would bring it up to me, I'd see it in a video. So there's
It is
something still there.
interesting as it starts to settle in because I just got back from doing a lot of traveling, and
Mhm.
one part of the trip kind of evolved into the next, into the next. And years ago, I kind of struggle the ambivalence of when I need to take these long, fun trips. Is it because I'm running away from something, or am I running to something? And the evolution I've had, and I'm still thinking about the words, and this quote really lands, is it's both, and it's
Mhm.
everything, and it's nothing, and it's
Yeah.
all at the same time. So yeah, interesting that brought that up for me.
Yeah, it's such a both and because I think it's both things simultaneously. Because it's like there's, you know, with everything, especially having lived overseas and lived in places, you know, there's a lot of people that talk to me about like their desire of like, I wish I'd lived this fuller life and traveled more. And as somebody who did, uh, you know, it's like, yes, like it helped grow me, but it also came at a cost for my human connections and the
Mm,
foundation that I have, and I often talk about how, you know, when you live far away from the people that you love, at first you miss them, and then after a while, this thing happens where they need you and you can't really be there for them,
mm.
and what that actually does to the fabric of the relationships, it introduces, like, kind of, you know, this whole thing. So, yeah, it's both and. It's
Yeah.
like, you know, it's like the idea that it's like either all like noble pursuit of, you know, self-actualization, or it's all, you know, doing something that's like whatever. It's like probably both. Yeah.
I like
Right
that.
on. All right, resistance. Are you ready for this
I
one?
don't know if I am. I'm gonna resist that for a little bit.
Yeah. Listen, if you're too charismatic, people are gonna you're gonna get requested back. So just a
Just a
warning.
one-time
Yeah.
guest, one time.
Just don't.
But come to San Diego.
Yeah, come to San Diego. I'll do. Yeah, watch out. Those you're pretty charismatic. All right. So as we know from the first hub and the brainstem, change signals possible danger. So we tend to reflexively stop doing things that will change us. As a result, discipline is hard. There are endless examples of projects and activities we enjoy, find satisfying, and feel are important, yet we abandon them. They start with a burst of adrenaline and suddenly, seemingly out of nowhere, meet with resistance. Meet with resistance, period. Pressfield, Stephen Pressfield, the author, see chapter 3, writes in the War of Art that the stronger the resistance, the more important the work.
Mm.
He considers resistance a mythical, even spiritual force that tests our resolve and commitment when it comes to the importance of the work of our lives, the expression of our emblem. When we start the work that will transform us and reveal our truest nature, the resistance will be relentless. Any distractions, writer's block, an illness, a cute cat to pet, that one's real, and any justifiable obligations will suddenly surge when the work begins to really take on momentum. Yeah, I mean, even like I want to even add on that. It'll even be things like great opportunities financially. It'll even be things that are positive that will be taking us back into
Mm,
doing things that are against this greater evolution. And they'll feel great because of this. It'll relieve us of having to do this thing that's really hard. Yeah. So when you know to watch for it, it's astonishing how the force of resistance will send its horsemen as soon as it detects devotional discipline in the service of an emblem. Resistance is so clever and insidious that it creates a belief that meaningful work should and will be easy, and a belief that if work gets difficult, it must be a sign that it's not the right thing for you. This can make you feel crazy, lazy, incompetent, ungrateful, afraid, or even stupid. The idea that it just flows when it's the right thing is astonishingly incomplete.
mm,
The paradoxical fact is that the important work of your life is both easy and difficult. Overcoming resistance is difficult because it's a genuine force to be reckoned with. Moreover, there's a distinct difference between the difficulty of showing up against resistance for the important work of our life and the difficulty of showing up for meaningless, repetitive work. If you believe that everything that is meant for you comes in a flow of easy, positive energy, your life will slip away. The paradox is that there's an ease and flow within the most meaningful work, and there is resistance and struggle. You will be transformed through the effort and become the person capable of achieving the best work of your life by doing it, not by having the prerequisites of previous success to undertake it.
mm.
And you can expect that resistance will consistently show up to test your conviction. For those who stay with it, the rewards are extraordinary.
Hmm.
La Fine.
I like that section. And it's interesting because as a perfectionist, it really don't let perfection get in the way of the good is a
Mhm.
quote that one of my first bosses shared with me. And it still resonates today because especially working in the technology and the startup space where most of the companies I've been at are doing something that's never been done before,
Mhm.
there's just immediate intimidation and sense that y- you got to have a plan and know exactly what you're going to do, and that anytime that you
Yep.
feel unsure of it, that you kind of get off your kilter. And a
Mhm.
lot of it is this duality of like having the discipline to keep going into the unknown and doing it with a fresh but intention. And I don't know, that's
Yeah, I think that one of the things is that the better you are at being bad at stuff, the
mm,
better you are at being good at stuff. And kind of even being able to find some absurdity and joy in being like doing something in the beginning stages and
mm,
being like bad at it. Like even like Parinama like school where it was like kind of like ridiculous. Like I was like sweating. I was so like, and I was like totally off my balance. And that feeling, I was talking with my friend Georgia about this afterwards, where I was like, I think one of the things that's funny is like how funny I find that. And I think it's one of those things where, but it also, s- but there's also a part of it that's important, which is like how it feels to like look bad. Because the other part is like, so, okay, like I want to say it's kind of like the part that was hard. Like, so when the class was over, it was like something that that had like so much room for improvement. And that felt really exciting for me. But there was also this thing that was like, wow, I just kind of like like I wasn't triumphant in that, you know, and that felt kind of like I felt like I'd gotten kind of like beat up. Like I kind of felt like really beat up by it because I was like, all this work goes into it, all of this consideration. I was so nervous and like just I care so much about this being good for like and being effective and really like getting to people in the right way. And then actually the thing was just like a lot of it was like kind of being kind of astonished by being like, wow, I kind of was like kind of a mess. Like and being like, oh wow, that doesn't feel great.
Well, it's so
Like
interesting
it's
as like an audience member and someone who like knows you presenting in many forms, that authenticity was so comforting because we were all going on this journey on the first class that was brand new of the unknown, and to really feel like you were embracing the moment and sharing that with us made it easier to dive in and start doing the work. And so the like not having perfection, tying it back to my perfectionism, I
yeah.
think is so important.
Well, and I think the thing is like perfection is boring to watch.
Mm,
And so it's like where it's like so it's like a protection. So
yep.
trying to protect ourselves from criticism. So perfection is like trying to outrun like anyone having like being able to say something cruel in a
Mm,
way. So it's kind of like if that's at the root of it, and it's like to be like, I could handle somebody saying something mean to me. And then being like, okay, like walk it back a little bit. But that is one of the things. And I really think that, yeah, but that is an interesting thing because it's like it's so boring to watch
mm.
somebody be
Yeah, I mean, we were
like
talking earlier about the Instagram
clean.
highlight reel and how not enough of
Yeah.
what we share with the world is showing the full picture. So lean into the shitty bloopers, more of those. I think we made a couple on
Shitty
this video. I
bloopers.
don't know.
This was perfect. This is beyond there's nothing in this. Like the thing that kind of is a thing is like in this video, like nothing, everything was complete perfection. So we don't get to actually exercise this thing of experimenting with actually having
Mm,
made mistakes and be comfortable with them. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of, and one of the things that's kind of interesting too about imperfection, especially as I'm doing stuff with social media, is realizing like imperfection is actually how you get engagement. And that's actually like not even just like a notion. It's literally like a strategy is that you do things that actually make people want to correct you because that's a way
mm.
that people actually engage. And
Embrace the trolls.
embrace the trolls and even just the thing where somebody's like, hey, I think you spelled that wrong or whatever. I mean, but I will say that from doing the class, like one of the things that was great is that, back to the thing of like that everything sort of works in this way that kind of works better than you can plan for it, which was, if my plan had worked, I would have been like perfect
Mm,
for that class. And I, in retrospect, consider the fact that it really opened people up to sharing with me the stuff that they thought would like help me get better, which is if it was just kind of like perfect, then my core, like really what I want more than anything is to make this great for people. And there's no way for me to evolve if people are like, oh my God, that was just so great. Like
it's
I
organic. It's not this polished perfect thing. It's something that has a life of its own, and it feels kind of cool as like someone taking the class and starting to dive into the book and better understand the Parinama method is like it's going to be something different for every single person who
so
embraces it.
that's it. And I think like one of the things that's really important about it is that if it's not a prescription, um, but like really important is that when someone is prescribing to us like what we need to be doing or how we need to be thinking about things, everything is so nuanced and completely relies on the circumstances and the situation that it's existing in. And it's changing over time, so that the only person that can really make the call and figure out what that connection is the integrity that's inside of you that can connect to what's right. So it's like the danger of prescriptive, this kind of stuff in like self-help, where it's like, here's how you like grab life by the balls kind of stuff. It's like the problem with it is that like most of the time we're just like it's a prescription
Mm.
that's a projection. It's just about your own thing that you're working through, that you're advising people to pay a lot of attention to, which is just this like lacking self-awareness about like kind of what your own thing is, and being like, hey, everyone else, you should work on this. Now, with that said, the caveat where everything has nuance is that I do think putting things out into the world, even when they are that kind of content, is sometimes that's what somebody needs to hear.
Mm-hmm.
Like somebody needs that piece of information to fill in their own process. And so there's just this kind of brilliance that's larger than I think what we can comprehend about how all this stuff works.
Yeah, that resonates a lot with me, of just whether you think you're putting out the perfect or polished or even in a way that you want people to receive it, you have no idea how someone somewhere needs to hear it in that version on that day in your voice. And
I know, like you think about like if you were to like spend an eternity writing, a like New York Times article, and you're like, oh my God, it's like, you research for 6 months and travel into the, sub-Saharan Africa and live in a tent, and, you like have those breakthroughs and all this kind of stuff. And it's like that page of writing could go to like lining somebody's litter box, like, and that's helpful. Or or they could like wrap a present with it, and it's like this, and put a little sprig of rosemary on it. Or they could like have a leak that's coming in, they just need something to shove into the leak, or but so it's kind of like the thing is like we put it out there, and it's not our decision about how it like how it's useful to someone. So I think that that's one of the things like I'm working on, is not trying to control, because even my desire that's expressed about like I wanted this to be really perfect is also a notion of trying to like control the experience. And quite frankly, as we're discussing, it's not how it works. All right, well, listen, Chad, I think this is what, like, I'm gonna call this a raging success.
I'd have to agree.
Yeah, I think so. All right. Well, listen, everybody, world out there, future watchers, I think that the bottom line is that you should like mention the fact that we need to have Chad here more. And it's a fact. Definitely optimize for like a million times. Thank you so much, Chad.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Bye.
Ooh.